I grew up there. I was born there. That was my home. But it never felt like this is where I'm gonna be for the rest of my life. Maybe it was just the idea of like starting over, standing on the bridge at Lake Murray, and we were just like looking around. It just felt like.
What were some of the hardest parts about moving, and anything that was harder about the process than you thought?
And it just seems so weird to say that, like, but I guess like living in California, like you're just so desensitized.
Is there anything that you wish was different or hope to see in the future?
The only thing that's coming to mind, and it's not going to be helpful because it's what people keep asking you for, and it doesn't exist here.
Here's something you might not know. Moving to Columbia, South Carolina was actually her idea first. She's the one who wanted to come here. And at first, I wasn't so sure. So today, you're gonna hear her side of the story. Why did she want to move here? What did she love right away? And what were the hardest parts that no one really talks about? So if you're thinking about moving here or trying to convince your spouse to move, you're gonna wanna hear this. All right, so let's start from the beginning of what made you decide to move to South Carolina, the Columbia, Lexington area specifically. Like, how did you find it? I tell people all the time, by the time I came in, you kind of had options for me. So do you remember how you found this area specifically?
I mean, I didn't end up doing the research. I thought that Jamie,
My sister.
yeah, your sister, I don't know, had like talked about let's move. And so like I was always 100% on board with leaving California. And when she said that, I was like, sure. And I thought that she had just pulled up websites based on school district, low crime, affordability, and Lexington, South Carolina was on there.
So, but obviously I'm assuming, because I know when we talked about it, there was Texas, Florida, and other places. What stood out about South Carolina specifically and the options that she kind of shared with you? Do you remember?
What has always stood out to me, I feel like, is the beach.
Close, the proximity?
Yeah, the beach. Um, I don't know. I don't like Texas. It just is so big to me, and I don't know.
Just never clicked.
It just not like the idea of living in Texas. Sure, I love country music. I love the hospitality of what people say like Texans are like. I love the idea of, but to actually live there, it just seemed too big to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love the idea of living in Florida. Like we've talked about that. I still love the idea of living in Florida, but now living over here on the East Coast and seeing the hurricane, like it's kind of scary. And that was like our pull away from Florida.
Yeah.
I don't know if we really compared too much between like South Carolina
Clicked.
clicked.
Now, with that said, so what was it that you were looking for? You said California, you were ready to leave. What was it specifically? Was it a lifestyle, a feeling? What was missing that you felt like I need to find somewhere else?
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like people say, they just have this connection to where they live, like that it felt like home. I just never felt that. Like it was a place that we lived, but it wasn't like, and it's weird. I grew up there. I was born there. That was my home, but it never felt like this is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It just never did. Um,
But what was, I guess then, which makes sense. I get that. What were you searching though? When you say somewhere that feels like home, what was the feeling that you were seeking out, I guess?
I don't think I actually could put it into words until we visited here.
Fair?
Like when we visited, it just.
And we'll get into that. So let's get in a little head and we'll talk about that. But before that, when you came to me the idea, do you remember my initial reaction?
Shut down. No.
What? Me?
We're not leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely
So,
shut down.
so in essence, you had to convince me.
We had to revisit the conversation years later.
Yeah. And What was my what did I say?
You said that California was perfect. You were a drive from the mountains, you were a drive from the beach, the weather's nice, this is where all your family is, I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
From what I remember,
And
that's
that's
what I remember
fair.
you saying.
And I think it's hard. I tell people now, obviously now I have a different perspective 10 years later being on this side, but for so long you're convinced California's as good as it gets. You're in the best place ever. And I believed it for a very long time. Now, obviously moving, I have a different perspective looking back, but I get that. So you said you couldn't convince me, and when you so how did you approach it? What was from your perspective, it was like Brandon doesn't want to move, but obviously now we're here. How did you approach that? Was it just kind of it is what it is, or
I mean, what we had talked about before, I was just kind of hoping that eventually you would see kind of what I was already seeing,
yeah,
that California is just too expensive.
yeah,
And the goals that we had, I already I already thought that it wasn't going to be attainable staying there, but I grew up differently. My parents, we never owned a home. We, always rented. And so the American dream was never a reality
in
from
California?
in California from where we were. So when we were looking at moving, affordability of a home was more obtainable outside of California. And so I was just kind of hoping that eventually you would kind of come to that idea or that we would eventually make it work. I mean,
And you're probably right thinking back, because as you know, I've always had this, not always, but as long as shortly after we're married, had this entrepreneur spirit. So I had these grandiose dreams of we're going to live in Bridgeport and all these different neighborhoods.
mhm.
And so you're right, I kindly had to come to my senses. Now circling back, because you did say it, but you said once you got here, it felt like home and you couldn't explain it. What was that first reaction when you got here? What were those things that were like, this is home?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just the idea of like starting over or all of the hopes of having a different life. It all was like going into it. We came to visit with the aspects of pursuing our dreams. And so I don't know, maybe it would have felt that way if we had gone to Florida or if we had gone to Georgia. I don't know, but I know like when we were standing on the bridge at Lake Murray and we were just like looking around, it just felt like home.
Felt right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything that you didn't expect, either positive or negative, that was like, okay, I wasn't expecting this? I mean, you were seeking out that feeling, but uh, go on. I'll let you.
Well, I think we had just gone to the grocery store and when we were leaving, we were like, well, we didn't expect to spend 20 minutes just talking to
Strangers.
a random person. And it just seems so weird to say that. Like, but I guess like living in California, like you're just so desensitized about how closed off people are.
Mhm.
And then when you go somewhere where people are just, you know, open and just like acknowledging it, it's weird
That's not normal.
that's not normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I've always said California has what I like to call the 7 degrees of separation when you meet someone. It's like, who do you know? Like, we have to have a connection before I can be comfortable with you. And well, oh, you know so and so. Okay, we can be friends now.
Right.
Where here it was like, as long as you're a good person, like it doesn't like you don't. There's no.
How did people know if we were a good person? We were just coming out of the grocery store.
I mean, you're right.
They had no idea who we are. We could have been, a bank robber, had money stacked in the car. Like, they have no idea.
And
I
that's
think they're
yeah.
initially expecting or seeing the good without any
Judgment.
judgments,
Yeah.
without any judgments at all. They were just happy to help us.
Yeah.
Like, we had told them that we were visiting, and they were like, "Oh, well, have you been to this restaurant?" They were just like willing to give information without knowing anything about us.
And we met a couple from California too at Cookout.
Mhm.
No. At the hotel, they said go to Cookout.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know.
So it's just kind of a breath of fresh air that you were looking for?
I guess so. I mean, getting out of this rat race, we were working so hard, and the idea of having to basically go into so much debt to have a better life, and then the thought of our kids having to, because we were working so much, having to work overtime, both of us, like, our kids were gonna live in daycare, and I just did not wanna live that way.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to want to stick around because later we're going to dive into the advice she would give to anyone thinking about moving here, including what you really need to know before making the move. But hey, if you're already starting to fall in love with Columbia and just aren't sure where to start, I've actually done a lot of that work for you. Don't hesitate to reach out. All my team's info, as always, is down below. We've created some helpful guides to help make it easier to figure out if this place is truly right for you. But let's keep going. All right, so with all this said, what were some of the hardest parts about moving and anything that was harder about the process than you thought?
I didn't think it was hard at all. I know you.
Well, financially, I mean, for like we put ourselves in debt just to get here in the first place. And so obviously, we had to rent for that period of time to pay off that debt, but us moving cost. So outside of financially, I guess, but you felt like it was a step back to step
We
forward.
were still able to buy our very first home after only living here for 8 months.
I don't disagree, but we put ourselves in that, like we put the U-Hauls on credit cards.
Yeah, but I was also able to, like, when we left Henry Mayo, we had, like, 4 or $5,000 that we had just from, like, our PTO cash out, like, so we
Yeah.
were able, I feel like we were in a situation where it was a lot easier than a lot of other people.
So there was nothing that was like difficult per se.
No? I mean, you talk about leaving your family. My sister was already out of California,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a hard time leaving my parents. I would talk to them on the phone. I would see them for like Christmas. I would see my mom, but I mean, they were both very supportive as like to being able to like move to be able to,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't hard to leave them.
No.
Um,
Which that, I mean, that my dad even said that. And I say to this day, it helped me because I did have that struggle, with my family still all being there, of especially now having kids, because it's like, my sister's there and they get the grandparent time. And that was difficult for me in the initial. But my dad even said, like, if I was your age, I'd be doing the same thing. Like, this is your family now that you got to go take care of. And that was a relief off of my shoulders. It's one thing, I think my dad said, because it kind of left that weight off of my shoulders of, are we doing the right thing? Are we? But my dad's supporting us in that too. So I get that.
I mean, I do agree with you now that we have kids and our kids are getting a little older, to not have family around sucks.
Yeah.
But would I go back to, I mean, just to have family around? I don't think I would,
Yeah. Well, and we can kind of get into that.
which, I mean, it sucks. I love you guys.
Yeah. Well, and I guess we can talk about that now instead of bringing it up later, because obviously I think that's one of the other benefits, and I'll let you kind of talk about that. Even though, yes, that aspect of family, we've created a new local, not local, but what we consider family around here. Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
Because the next question is, what was easier? Did that help the cause, having people here that felt like family over the time?
Yes. I mean, you make friends wherever you go. You make relationships wherever you go generally.
But how deep? Like, I think that was the thing for me.
Well, I think we got lucky. Not everybody makes a strong, deep relationship to a neighbor. And realistically, like it's Jessica. Like we got very lucky.
Yeah.
I think it was like right time, right place, and just right places in both of our lives. Her kids were older and she was clinging on to that baby feeling, and we were having babies. And so we were giving that back to her. And so she was able to help us out and
Built a connection through that.
built a connection based on that, and it's grown every year. So I don't know, I feel like we just got lucky.
Yeah. Now we have other friends in the neighborhood though that we still go and do dinner with and things like that.
Yeah, but they came from California.
Not all of them.
Well, yeah, Brittany and Ian.
Yeah, they're from here.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's I get what you're saying. And I mean me personally, I don't call things luck per se. I think and this is what I tell people a lot. Like in order for those relationships to happen, both parties have to be open to it, right? And I think that's the hard thing is a lot of people come with this like, oh, everybody's friendly and nice, and then they sit at home and wait for the neighbor to come over and be
You've
like,
got to be able to
which is you're better at than me.
go out. Yeah.
I talk about that. You are much better at that than me, even though here I am on camera all the time. Like you're much better at putting yourself out there and like reciprocating, helping out the neighbors, taking their trash cans out when they're gone. Like you instigate on that a lot better than I do. Do you agree?
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Where you're very much, you put yourself out there and then all of a sudden it's like you're friends with these people and all of a sudden I get kind of connected on the sake of you making friends with them.
Yeah.
So now, was there anything that was, I guess, going back to the original question, easier than you thought? We talked about harder and you said it wasn't difficult for you, but was there anything that you thought was going to be hard and ended up not being?
Um, I mean, I went into it with a very open mind. I was hoping for change. I honestly don't know if I really had any expectations.
Yeah,
Um,
which is good.
yeah, I was just kind of open for all of it. Like however it was going to be, I was just ready for it. It I guess in the very very beginning when we had come to visit and then we had gone back home and we are like, okay, we're gonna move now, let's look for jobs.
Yeah,
That I didn't really realize that, which I loved actually, that South Carolina had this thing on unemployment that they were not going to accept anyone from outside of the state until they got their own state's unemployment up higher,
that's what we had been told.
which
Yeah,
is so amazing. Like they really like us as a state, we focus on our own people, which is how it should be.
yeah,
But us trying to move and get a job, like we were screwed.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Because going back, I had applied for a multitude of jobs. So did you, and we had interviewed, and
huh?
I never got interviews.
I
I would get told like, "Hey, when you get here, just let us know." And I was like, "Well, we need the job to move." And they're like, "Okay, but when you get here, let us know."
yeah,
You got interviews, but
interviews.
and you did very well in them, but then it just like,
Yeah, and I don't, because I think I remember at least like one for sure interview.
we thought they were going to hire you.
We did a phone interview, and then I think it just kind of like they,
Hired someone already here.
I guess so. I don't know if I ever got it confirmed. But then we were kind of looking at going in a different direction anyway.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe I just didn't pursue it. But
But even with me, it was
yeah, for you,
I went
you
through
for
multitude
sure.
of
They,
applications.
yeah, they had at that point we had basically like, I don't know if I think we had been told that
Use a local
use a
address.
local address. And so I think that's what we had tried to do from then. And then I got into real estate instead of doing anything at the
What you were doing, yeah.
yeah.
And it worked, and it was, of course, because you write this address here and you fly, and they're like, in the interview, they're like, all your job experiences in California. I was like, it's a long story. I'm like, I promise you, if you give me this job, I will be here.
Yeah, we're
And sure enough, they did. And they're like, you got 3 weeks. And I was like, I told them I'm going to be here. And 3 weeks later, we were here, which was obviously, I think that was the other benefit. We were in a situation where we could do that, where they could say, we need you here in 3 weeks. And, where we were renting, we could just pack up and go,
yeah.
where it wasn't like going through this process.
Mhm.
So now obviously it's been 10 years this month.
Yeah.
Crazy to think, right? So, and I don't think I have to ask this question, but in the end, was it a good idea?
Yeah.
And so if you could go back and give yourself advice, I know you said, it wasn't difficult. It was easier for you than maybe me. If you could give yourself advice before moving here, what kind of advice would you give? Like, what would you tell yourself? Like, or just, you should have done it sooner?
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm a firm believer on everything's going to kind of happen when it's meant to happen. I think when I was younger, I tried to like rush things. And, this is kind of like a spiritual thing too. Like, I've just
It'll
kind of
happen.
learned to like just trust God's plan. and it'll happen when it's meant to happen.
For sure.
So, I kind of feel like
I agree. I mean,
yeah,
you can't dwell on what I should have done
no.
because I've been guilty of that, and it creates a lot of regret when you sit there and dwell on those things. I guess then, for the benefit of those watching, is there any advice that helped you in that transition? Let's take it this way to make it easier. What advice would you given me? Because you know it was a more challenging thing to me, whether or not I would have taken it. What advice would you give me to help me in that process? Because you knew I was a little bit more, I guess, not as open minded as you were, is the best way to put it.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to look at your situation where you are right now and look at all the facts. Just be open to the idea that where you are right now doesn't have to be like where you have to stay to make your dreams come true. Just be open to a new environment, a new way of thinking to kind of get to that end goal.
And then I'm glad because I want to kind of talk to you about this a little bit more because I think it's important because again, I've struggled with this too, and I know a lot of people do. That open mindedness coming into it. Because obviously living here is vastly different than California. The
Mhm.
lay of the land, the neighborhoods, a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So making sure to have that so your expectations meet reality. Because that's the thing I see a lot is people's expectations are one thing and they show up and it's like, this isn't what I thought it was. So, but you came from a different perspective of like, you were open to this is a new area. It's going to be different. Is that like, what was your mindset with that?
I didn't have any expectations.
None.
None. I just knew of what I knew I knew of what we were coming from.
It
And
was so bad that anything was better.
basically, I mean, I don't know. It
But it's beyond, but
obviously California is not horrible.
I know, but it's beyond because obviously people resort that to the financial. Yes, it's cheaper in all these other places, but we've been around the country. Like you said, Texas just, it wasn't, there's plenty of places we've been around the country. So there was obviously something that even though you're open minded, there's still bad places. Like there's still places that you wouldn't move.
No, but we did research. We didn't just like go into an
Throw a
area.
dart and
No,
good
like
luck.
we did a general overview of the area. We liked living next to a lake. We were close to Lake in California. So big,
Beach,
yeah, the beach. I mean, we were picking things that we were comfortable
not
with.
giving up our need bees.
Well, yeah, I mean, like we're beach people and we're water people. So we didn't want to be too far away from those things that we enjoy. We didn't have kids at that point.
Right.
So that wasn't like a huge factor of what we were looking for.
You did say, I'm assuming that Jamie had looked into schools. Like it was a factor, even though it wasn't our biggest factor at the
I think
moment.
it's a factor because it also goes into crime. If you've got good schools, then you have lower crime. I think it just goes into your
Overall.
overall factors of how safe the area is.
Okay. Now, and we talked about this beforehand, so I know, but I still want your perspective on it. Obviously, like you said, you were ready to move. I was not. Convincing me, is that even an option, or what was your thought process?
You can't convince people to do things that they don't want to do. I mean,
You just had to wait till I came to my terms?
you may not have ever changed your mind. We were just going to make the best decisions for us at that time where we were. Like, that's just what people do. I was hoping that you would want to move. And luckily, you eventually saw that could be an option. But you can't change people's minds.
They have to come to
They
terms.
yeah, it has to be something that they want to do. I mean, or they're gonna move and they're gonna be completely unopen to the experience and just be miserable,
Yeah.
and then they're gonna make you miserable. Like, I don't know if
So
that
you
was
had to, oh yeah,
necessarily the right decision. Like, there are people that say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna make this decision for you."
but then
Does that end up actually, like, working out
yeah, because you've
for
heard the
you and
resentment.
your relationship? Yeah, like, if you're moving with your family, with your husband, you have to make the decisions together.
Yeah, because in the end, that I came to my terms, even though I had a little bit harder time adjusting. I couldn't blame you and be like, well, this was your idea. Like, I made the decision right there alongside you. And that's what it can essentially create, is that resentment of, you put us in this situation, but it was like, no, we made this decision.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it took me a good, I would say, I think until we bought our first house. Because all of a sudden, that was what was difficult for me, kind of going back, is we're sitting in this apartment, we're trying to pay off debt, and I'm like, how is this any different from where we were?
Yeah.
We were in the same situation. However, I guess the difference was there was this light at the end of the tunnel. Now, granted, in California, I thought there was a light at the end of the tunnel. But then once we bought a house, it was like, holy cow, like, this light at the end of the tunnel isn't decades away.
It was a huge house. It was like
2,200 square feet.
I mean, it was amazing.
Do we want to tell them what we paid for it?
No, I don't think it'd be helpful.
No, they're gonna be like, "Where's that house?
Yeah,
Doesn't exist. That
anymore.
was 10 years ago. Doesn't exist."
And so I guess when you had said, "Is there any advice?" Yeah, move sooner.
Yeah,
Go back in time and buy when the market
was cheaper.
or move to areas
Before everybody got the memo.
before everybody moved here.
But I do think that's the difficult thing, because the reality is we didn't know that moving here. We weren't moving here with the intent of like, this place is going to pop off. Like, we didn't have this investor mindset. We just attracted to the area. And my kind of side of it is, yeah, you know, you're exactly right. It just kind of felt to me like Santa Clarita did back in the 90s. Right? Because Santa Clarita back in the 90s, I always talk about, even though we say California, everybody thinks of like these big cities. That city is now, but back then there was no mall. It was orange groves everywhere, and we'd ride our bikes around, and it was very small town-esque feel, but we still had proximity to Los Angeles, and like most people work downtown and things like that. Like, and so it felt kind of like, to me, stepping backwards in time. And I think it's that nostalgia of like, okay, now we can create for our kids what we had for ourselves. And that was kind of, I guess, what most connected to me, was that nostalgia of my childhood. Now, I didn't put all the pieces together, and that's where it was difficult. And I've talked about a lot of like, okay, well, our kids can't ride the bike to the mall. They'll get run over. Like, so those kind of things that I had to kind of be okay with, where I had different expectations than you did. I'm not sure where I'm going with this tangent, but either way, in the end, I'm happy as well. Like I said, it took me a little bit longer to get there. You know, I'm glad that I did come to terms and that we did it together, because it probably would have been a lot more difficult if I wasn't on board and I was just like, this sucks, this isn't what I wanted. But either way, bonus questions. Is there anything now, obviously you've lived here. I understand when you moved here, didn't have expectations. Now you've lived here. Is there anything that you wish was different or hope to see in the future?
The only thing that's coming to mind, and it's not going to be helpful because it's what people keep asking you for, and it doesn't exist here. But the idea of like when we were younger, where we got to ride our bikes. Sure, I'm the Californian that is asking for something that just isn't here
Yeah,
now.
I get that. And that's what the kids, and that comes with it. And I think the reality is, and we've talked about it too, because this is, you know, I'll be honest about it, right? That's what we've talked about Charleston. There's places in Charleston that exist, but in the same accord, that goes back to, I think, the facts of the pros and the cons, and like, okay, where do we want to be in life? And the biggest thing that I know, you work from home, it's a little bit different, but the traffic down there, the cost of housing down there, it's just entirely different than here.
You're paying for, you know, the things that you want, basically. And
It would cost us 3 times as much for this house down there.
right, exactly. And so it's like you have to be able to give up on some of your like wants or whatever. You have to get more of like what you really, what your overall like desire is.
Yeah.
You have to be able to like,
What are your primary values, and what are you willing to give up? Like, because there's got to be some ebb and flow. And I think that's the hard thing is
you're just going to get everything.
correct. And I think that was the difficult part for me of where my expectations were, is like, your values were, and I can say this looking backwards, obviously I didn't say at the time, so I'm not this perfect person. I figured this out over time. Your values were aligned with the right way. We're looking for this. And I was trying to put these superficial things above the things that we were valuing at the time. And I think that's why California was hard for me to leave. Like, it was this mindset of, I live in California, this is the best place. And I wasn't taking that 30,000 foot view and saying, where are my values at and what am I prioritizing? And I still struggle with that. My values were in the wrong place, versus you had this like Brandon, we're trying to have kids, build this life. We can't do this here. And you're prioritizing the weather and the beach and the mountains and all these silly things versus our life that we're trying to build.
Well, no, I mean, it was just hard for you to give up because you had that dream and you just thought that I need to keep working harder to obtain it.
Yeah.
Instead of me, I was like, let's just try it somewhere else.
There's other places.
Like we don't have to work this hard. It shouldn't have to be this hard.
Yeah. Now, last two bonus questions. What's a Southern tradition that you've learned to love? Something that culturally they do different here than over there, outside of obviously the friendliness, because that's the easiest answer. People say hi in the grocery store that we talked about, but is there any other Southern traditions that you're like, this wasn't something I was used to and I like it?
I don't know because like we I feel like our Southern tradition knowledge or like experience comes from Jessica and her family.
Yeah.
One thing that I didn't know was that casseroles are a Southern thing. I love casseroles, but like my parents made like my mom made casseroles. I didn't realize like that was a Southern thing.
Yeah.
But I love that. I don't know. I mean, I guess everything that I'm thinking about is food.
Well, which I was gonna say, and maybe this will help you as you think about it. My biggest thing for me, and it actually wasn't. I didn't think about it until the pastor mentioned it at church the other couple months ago. But whenever we had friends and neighbors in California, and we were going out to eat, and we said, "Hey, we're gonna do dinner on Friday." The expectation was you were going somewhere.
Right.
Here, if our friend texts us and says we're doing dinner on Friday, we're going to their house or they're coming to ours.
Yeah.
Like that was and I didn't
Like
realize it
specify like we're gonna go
out to eat, where in California it was assumed you're going out to eat.
Yeah.
You had to specify the other way of, hey, you can come to our house. Where here it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Come into our house, which I love. Because again, what I've loved about it is when we go over there, it's not like, hey, we eat dinner, we're here for an hour and then we eat.
Community.
We're there for hours. The kids are playing, we're hanging out, having a good time and things like that.
It's about the conversation. It's about like reconnecting,
Now, with that said, since we're on the topic of food, and this will be the last question, unless you have anything else you want to add, is what are your favorite places to eat? People come to town all the time. They always ask me, like, hey, where's your favorite places to eat? And you can talk, it doesn't have to be like one specific. Like if you have like, oh, for breakfast, this, lunch,
Okay.
what are your favorites?
Locals down in Charleston. Absolute
If you're,
favorite.
yeah, if you're in Charleston.
I love the food. Their sushi rolls change, so I may not, get the same thing every time, but they like which I don't know if this was a thing in California, but like they have their like server items where like they check in and a lot of restaurants here do that. They have like their servers weigh in on their on the menu and they'll have like a Stacy roll or something like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that's like really cool. But I also love like the environment because it's like they have music and all of that. So
And the other reason too we talk about is I don't like
Oh.
sushi.
about you.
Of course. I
I
don't.
thought this was my question.
I know, but there's context to this.
Yeah.
I don't like sushi. So whenever we go to a sushi place, we have to find something Brandon likes. Now, on your birthday, we've gone to sushi places and I'll eat some of the other dishes.
Mhm.
But the other reason we like locals is because they have tacos.
They have tacos.
And I love tacos. So
Yeah.
it's a mutual thing.
Well, and the tacos seem good. They also have like burgers and stuff. They have like a bunch of
You have options. Where most
Yeah.
good sushi places, like in Akai here, it's like
It's just sushi.
I gotta have like orange chicken or
Yeah.
whatever other.
Like locals, they've got like stuff for the kids.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, now locally, let's circle back.
local. Okay.
Because you can't tell, like, when you come to town, drive 2 hours to Charleston.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a valid point if you go to Charleston. Because again, and I talk about this, people think we're crazy. Like, we take day trips to Charleston. You just went, what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I was working, but you and the kids went.
Yeah, we went on a Sunday. We went to the beach.
Just for the day.
Yeah, just for the day.
Everyone thinks we're crazy.
I mean, it was nice.
But okay, going back though. Here.
So I feel like breakfast, brunch, more of like a brunch person. cafe strudel.
Yeah.
Dinner, there's like tons of options.
Yeah.
Um, I really oh, now I'm like forgetting what it's called. That new taco place on Main Street,
Barrios.
Barrios. But I feel like the reason these places are my favorite is because I don't just have like one thing that I eat there. Yeah, I go to one restaurant, but I can, depending upon how I feel, like they're at Cafe Strudel, like their egg mashup thingy or whatever is really good. Their French toast is really good. Like I've had
Good
the different
options.
things that I like on the menu, so I don't have to like just get one thing. Same with Barrios. Like there's so many options with different tacos.
Because you can build your own.
You can build your own, yeah, and they've got like so many different options. So that I feel like that was a really good add to Lexington Main Street. I feel like it's always busy. But even when it's busy, like you only wait like 10, 15 minutes or so.
That was another weird change I talked to people about.
Waiting for hours.
In California, you couldn't go anywhere without reservations. Otherwise, you were waiting hours. Here it was weird. Now it's changed over time. Like when we first moved here, you just walked into restaurants.
Yeah.
Now it's like you might have to, but it wasn't like, even on like, I remember we could go out Thursday nights and you needed reservations in California.
Oh, anytime if you were wanting to go to dinner, you had to make a reservation.
We're here, like we walked in, we'd call places like, do you guys do reservations? Like, no, just show up. I'm like, what do you mean? Just show
Yeah.
up? Like it was a foreign concept.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I feel like when we first moved here, we tried like a bunch of different restaurants.
Some of them are gone now though.
Is Polly's Porch
Polly's Front Porch is still there.
is still there? I remember they had a really good burger, and I think we only went there once, but I
Yeah.
remember it being really good.
I have a list. Like we made a list of a bunch of different places, but I've gone back now to like readjust our list as I've had clients tell me, and some of them are now gone.
Yeah.
I mean, that 118 State, when we first visited,
It's like a coffee place, wasn't it?
yeah, we went for like Valentine's or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we had this whole list
Yeah.
of places that we try. Owl's Upstairs obviously is closed now. Motor Supplies, good, they're still there.
Yeah.
Polly's Front Porch, Hudson Smokehouse, Real Mexico, Farm Boys, Private Property,
Yeah. Oh gosh, their shrimp and grits is so good.
their Shrimp and Grits. Again, seafood person over here.
Mhm.
I've had people ask about shrimp and grits.
It was just their grits actually has like seasoning, like has flavor.
The first time I had grits was on the way here in Texas. We went to Cracker Barrel. And I was like, I guess I got to try this grits thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, as far as like lunch places, we don't really go out to eat for
That's
lunch.
a
It's
hard
either like brunch or dinner.
Yeah,
It's not like just lunch.
yeah. What about Mexican? California, got to ask. This is a debate. This is a family debate.
I feel like, yeah, originally we had said Real Mexico was really good, but I've kind of like shifted and I like Don Tequila's. I feel like that is
I've always said
good.
Real Mexico is very authentic Mexican. Don Tequila's is really Western Americanized Mexican. Like coming from California, it's what we consider Mexican food, where Real Mexico is like authentic. Like you can get like lengua and all those things that you're not going to get in Americanized, where like Don Tequila's is like my El Torito.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have anything else?
No.
So now, you finally got my better half's perspective. And as much as I love the camera, she doesn't care for being on camera. So let's thank her for coming on to give her perspective. And if you're thinking about moving to Columbia, just looking to learn a little bit more about life here, we'd love to help you out. All my team's information is below, so don't hesitate to reach out. And to get more perspective of what it's like living in the area, make sure to check out this playlist here. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next one.